What's up, guys? What's going on? Insta crew, just letting you know I'm going to be on here for about 5 to 10 minutes, take a couple questions, and then I'm going to be moving this live over to the Carbon Diet Coach Instagram. So you guys, if you want to watch the rest of it, you'll make sure you follow Carbon Diet Coach, and I'll be taking questions over there as well. What's up, Mako? Morning from Australia. Australia, mate. How much belly fat would you say you've lost? I have no idea. I didn't get my MRI done. Just going to pull this question up. Layne says, I started my cut and weight didn't come off as much. Didn't come off as much as I was expecting. I still have time to check in, just kind of getting discouraged. Well, it's only been a few days, Layne. Keep in mind, like, I've had periods of time, of days, where, what does it look like I have eyeliner on? I've had days where my weight has gone up by like 3 pounds. So this actually a great example. This past fat loss phase, I was in a maintenance, I was in the diet break. I came out of the diet break, went into fat loss in an 800 calorie deficit. And the first 3 days, I gained a pound. But I didn't get discouraged. I kept doing the things that I know were important to lose weight. And guess what? I lost 3 pounds by the end of that week. So Layne, don't get discouraged. Just keep doing the things you need to do. And hey, if you don't drop as much weight as you were supposed to, the app will adjust you. So there's no reason to get discouraged. You're going to make progress. Just keep putting the work in. The only way you're not going to make progress is if you get discouraged and quit. So if you do the things you need to do, you'll do it. You'll make progress. Mako, I'm sorry. I thought maybe that was your actual name, unless your actual name is Mako, which in that case is awesome. I am familiar with how to pronounce the shark name. Yeah, but I thought it was maybe something different. I thought maybe it was a Japanese name. Hey, Layne, first day on Carbon today. It's really user-friendly. Keep up the good work. You're very welcome. Is your response to Paul Saladino available somewhere yet? No, it is not, because I literally just finished writing it yesterday, and it's 50 pages long, and it takes time to get prepped for a website to make it look nice so that you can actually read it, and it's not just a Google Doc. Hey, Layne, Carbon Diet Coach is a godsend. Dropped 5 kilos in 7 weeks while gaining strength. I'm now moving on to a lean bulk. Looking forward to some strength gains. How do you feel about Windler 531? I mean, Windler 531 is fine. It's a good basic program, I suppose. I think there's probably, if you really want like customized programming, I would check out the BioLayne Workout Builder on biolayne.com, which we put together, which has 50 different training templates on there. That would be really great and much more specific to whatever your goals are. How do you kill fat cells? You can't, I don't want to say you can't kill fat cells, because fat cells have a lifespan of about 10 years. So we do have fat cell turnover insofar as they don't last forever, but the number of fat cells is very tightly regulated, meaning it doesn't really change much unless it's extreme circumstances. So that's, they can die, but you can't really kill them. Like just dieting or losing fat is not going to kill fat cells. I mean, if you do like liposuction, that gets rid of them. But the thing about liposuction, the thing about liposuction is if you don't stay if you do liposuction and then you don't, if you start like overeating, what happens is you can't gain fat back in the place where you had liposuction done, because adipose has to scaffold onto an extracellular matrix. So you destroy the extracellular matrix. The problem is you start gaining fat in really strange places. Like there's been case studies of people who will like start gaining fat like up here in really strange places. So, yeah. My naturopath, that was your first mistake, said to decrease my protein from 138 to 118 due to some blood work results concerning my liver and kidneys. Your thoughts? Well, if they're looking at BUN or creatinine or any of those kind of surrogate markers, it's very normal for those to be elevated amongst the people who train hard and eat a high protein diet. If you have kidney failure, you will have elevated BUN. But just because you have elevated BUN does not mean you have kidney failure. I wouldn't be very concerned unless the numbers were really high. If you are concerned, go get a GFR test done and go get an ultrasound done, and that will give you much more input. Let's see here. Let's take a question off Instagram. Listen to the Saladino podcast myself. So many BS claims backed up by BS studies. It's not so much BS studies. What you guys have to understand is, so Paul Saladino, for those of you who don't know, is a carnivore advocate, and he went on the Joe Rogan podcast. And he made several claims. I would say the biggest erroneous two claims he made are that plants are toxic and that polyunsaturated fats are what is making us sick, and that saturated fats are healthy for us. So he brought up many studies to support his points. The problem is if you only bring up single studies and you omit the body of literature, I can find single studies to support anything I want to claim in terms of nutrition. Okay? There are artifacts and data. Yes, there are unscrupulous scientists who do bad things at times, but for the most part, when a study is opposing the rest of the literature, usually you can figure out why if you dig through the methodology and you dig through the way they did the analysis. Sorry, I need to get more sleep. So what Paul did a lot of was he cherry-picked a lot of things, and he used a lot of mechanistic data without actual outcomes. So, for example, he said PUFAs are bad for us, polyunsaturated fats, because it has several places where it has an unsaturated bond. Those bonds can be oxidized, and that can cause oxidative stress. And oxidative stress contributes to heart disease. Therefore, PUFAs cause heart disease. That's kind of the connection he was trying to make. One really big problem with that. The actual outcome data does not support that in any way, shape, or form. People who eat more polyunsaturated fats have lower rates of heart disease than people who eat less polyunsaturated fats, especially when they're replacing saturated fats for polyunsaturated fats. And now he'll bring up one of the studies he brought up was the Minnesota coronary experiment. Okay. This one study that took place in the 1970s. And they took people and they told them to either eat more polyunsaturated fats or more saturated fats. And they found that it didn't really make a difference. And in certain age groups, they actually saw like a little bit higher mortality rate. It wasn't significant in the people eating the PUFAs. So we go, see, these epidemiological studies, these correlation studies are all bullshit. But look at this randomized control trial where they showed no difference in PUFA versus saturated fat. Like that just shows that the lipid hypothesis of heart health is bullshit. This is an example of cherry picking. Okay. If you look at the studies on cigarette smoking, all right, and you look at meta-analysis, I can find studies where they showed no difference between people who smoke and people who don't in incidence of heart disease and cardiovascular disease. I can find them. But it's ignoring the 50 other studies that found the opposite. Okay. In fact, there's a couple of studies that show like a little bit the opposite direction, not statistically significant, but I could like make an argument that, oh, cigarette smoking is protective for heart health and lung health. No, it's fucking not, because the majority of the data shows the opposite. Once again, if I cite single studies, I can find something that supports my belief. That is why it is important to look at the entire literature. So in the case of heart disease, you are dealing with what's called a lifetime exposure risk. Heart disease does not develop in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, even 5 years, okay? So if you look at LDL cholesterol, which based on the preponderance of data is causative for heart disease. It can penetrate the endothelium and cause damage to the endothelium. So we have the mechanistic data to show that. The problem is it's hard to do a 10 or 20-year randomized controlled trial. It just doesn't happen, okay? So we have to look at cohorts. We have to look at, okay, these people ate this way versus these people who ate this way, and we see this much disease risk, okay? The cohorts are very clear. Replacing saturated fat with PUFA decreases risk of cardiovascular disease. Okay, I like to explain this in terms of interest rates. Okay, so if I start investing $2,000 per year, and I'm either getting a 6% return or an 8% return, after a year, I've only got like $80 of difference, not statistically significant. After 2 years, I still don't have much difference. But over 40 years, if I did that every single year at 6% versus 8%, over 40 years, I have hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference. That is the way lifetime exposure works for LDL cholesterol. It's not about what happens in 1 year or 2 years or 5 years. It's about what happens from 10 to 40 years, okay? And we see this in what are called Mendelian randomization studies. Now, Mendelian randomization studies, basically, we are able to use the fact that we have genetic diversity amongst our population, where you can find people who have polymorphisms in their genes that either cause them to have higher LDL cholesterol levels or lower LDL cholesterol levels based on these genetic polymorphisms. And they don't really affect the other blood lipids. And what you see is almost a completely linear response of blood LDL cholesterol levels with heart disease. I used to be somebody who said LDL doesn't matter for heart disease. It's about your HDL to LDL ratio. Those same Mendelian randomization studies have not shown HDL to be protective, and drugs that raise HDL have not shown HDL raising drugs to be protective on heart disease. Okay, HDL is more of a marker of metabolic health. Okay, it's more of a byproduct of that. So LDL, when you look at it, if you lower your LDL by 18 milligrams per deciliter over the course of your entire lifetime, it reduces your risk of heart disease by about 25%. Okay. That's about a 10% reduction for most people. Okay. So again, this isn't just one study. These are hundreds of studies showing this. So him saying that PUFAs cause heart disease, when in fact we have like so much data to the contrary, is just an example of cherry picking. Also, he says we should eat like the Hadza. The Hadza, a hunter-gatherer tribe, eat a high amount of PUFAs. They have low LDL cholesterol, and their blood work looks nothing like Paul Saladino's, who has LDL cholesterol over 300 milligrams per deciliter. So anyway, this is all going to be my paper that's coming out on my website here. 50 pages long, 250 citations. I'm sure a lot of people will tell me I'm full of shit, but all right. Gang, on BioLayne, I am jumping off, and I will come back on the Carbon Diet Coach Instagram. So jump off here, Go to Carbon Diet Coach. Let's put this live back up. Facebook and YouTube people, hold on, sit tight. One second, gang. Guys on Facebook and YouTube, give me some hearts, give me some likes. When you do that, it helps the live get seen by more people. All right, first question. Miguel says, hello from the Canary Islands. Awesome. About Carbon app. I've been on it 2 weeks tomorrow. Why doesn't it ask for your height to calculate your macros? Doesn't it make a difference? So this is a popular misnomer. I don't want to say height doesn't make a difference, because surface area of your body does probably make a difference in terms of your BMR. However, the most important factor for determining your basal metabolic rate and overall energy expenditure is your lean body mass. Your lean body mass is not impacted by your height. People who are taller, all things being equal, will have greater lean body mass. That is why people who are taller tend to have higher metabolic rate. But it's not because they're taller, it's because they simply have more lean body mass. So the fact that we do a calculation to determine your lean body mass, means that we don't need to use height. And formulations that use height, like Harris Benedict and a few of the others, they're not as accurate as the Mueller equation, which uses lean body mass. I have like some beard hair that just refuses to obey. Let's see here. Once eat enough of a surplus to gain one, that doesn't make sense. How long does the physiological process of creating 1 pound of body fat take? That would be almost impossible to determine, because you would have to run a stable isotope tracer experiment of fat in food that had a stable isotope tracer. Yeah, it would be almost impossible to empirically determine. But what I'll say is it doesn't take as long as you think it does. Chris, your question doesn't make sense on Facebook. Guys on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, please, or Twitter. Guys on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, please hit the like button, hit the heart button, give me some love. It helps us get seen by more people. I'm looking for a question on Instagram. Nope, no good questions on Instagram. Okay, let's go see over here. Do you do any specific mobility work? Yes, I do. But it's specific for me. I have some stuff on my YouTube channel you can pull up where I show kind of some of the mobility work I do. A lot of hip mobility for me. Daily saturated fat not to exceed. I mean, you can be healthy and still eat a higher saturated fat intake, but it does raise your risk of atherosclerosis and heart disease. The general recommendations are less than 10% of your calories from saturated fat, but honestly, based on the Mendelian randomization studies, the lower you can get it, probably the better off you're going to be. Some people have said, well, you don't want to get it too low because low LDL cholesterol is associated with increased rate of infection and higher rates of cancer. That is an example of not understanding the cart or the horse or the chicken or the egg. So if you were infections cause a lowering of LDL, and cancer causes a lowering of LDL. Neither of those cause lowering LDL doesn't cause cancer, and it doesn't increase your risk of infection. How often should scale weight be measured on Carbon? Almost 1 week using the app. I recommend weighing in daily and then taking the, well, if you weigh in daily, the app will average your weights for you, which is the most accurate way of doing it, because your day-to-day fluctuations can change a ton, but your week-to-week average is not going to change that much. And that's why we recommend people weigh in daily and log it. Oh, I see, Chris. Okay, cool. Denise, I already answered that question. Maybe you missed it. If you want to go from skinny fat to visible abs, do you have to bulk and cut, or you can go straight to getting abs? I have seen very few people make long-term progress towards an impressive physique by recomping, trying to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. Typically, those people just spin their wheels, get frustrated, and quit. If you are uncomfortable with your body fat, I would recommend losing fat. If you lose fat, you will actually look more muscular. You may still be a little bit skinny, but you will have more muscular definition. And so I think you'll be more comfortable. And then from there, do a gaining phase. But you need to be in this for the long term. Like, you guys don't, most of y'all have no fucking clue how long it takes to actually put on decent amounts of muscle, because you read fitness magazines, or you like look at some idiot influencer on Instagram who says you can gain 10 pounds of muscle in 12 weeks or whatever. Horse shit. You'd be lucky to gain 10 pounds of muscle in 2 years. Mandy says, I lost 120 pounds on a program. I was lost on how to maintain it. The program, the app taught me how to restrict. The program taught me how to restrict and not how to eat. I'm doing a reverse in Carbon. I'm maintaining my weight on 2,600 calories. I love it. Awesome. How are you feeling? Looking amazing. In terms of fat loss, I feel fine. I've had a very stressful week, so I don't feel great in that aspect. But in terms of like my energy in the gym, I feel pretty good. Is consuming vegetables absolutely necessary if we are following our macros? Guys, you've got to learn how to ask the right questions. Necessary, like define necessary. What do you mean? Are you going to die tomorrow if you don't eat vegetables? No. Are you going to die next month if you don't eat vegetables? No. Are you going to die next year? Probably not. Are you going to die in 5 years? Probably not. But it might be the difference between you living to be 75 and living to be 68. It might be that kind of difference. So this idea of necessary, no, it's not necessary. You're not going to keel over and die tomorrow, but it's a really good idea if you'd like to live to be a ripe old age. Coming out of prep, is there any data backing that lost muscle is gained quicker, or is that just a myth? Lean body mass takes more time to accrue back on post-prep than body fat, period. I've heard this whole argument that like, oh, as you get leaner during a prep, you're primed for muscle growth and anabolism because your insulin sensitivity is so high. Your muscle insulin sensitivity caps out at a pretty low threshold. What gets really insulin sensitive as you get very fucking lean is fat tissue. You are primed for anabolism in fat tissue at the end of a long cut, period. And the data bears that out very well. How long do you suggest being in a caloric surplus to gain muscle with training? At least several months. Muscle. If you guys think fat loss is slow, muscle gaining is extraordinarily slow, ridiculously slow. You better be in it for the long haul. Like, that's not to say you can't do like sprinkle in some mini cuts over the course of a year. But if you want to gain muscle, so I have been lifting for over 20 years consistently. I would say over 80% of that time has been spent at maintenance or in a surplus. Over 80%. Over 80%. I'll just say it one more time. Over 80%. You cannot carve a statue out of a pebble. You need to commit to the process of gaining some weight so you can gain some lean body mass. That being said, you don't have to get sloppy, because here's what happens with a lot of people during bulking phases. They start out with the idea that they're going to do it lean and keep it, lean or whatever, or clean bulking or whatever the fuck that means. And what you don't realize is that bulking is very frustrating if you're trying to do it slowly, because your weight it'll do nothing, and then boom, you gain 3 pounds, and then you lose a pound, and then you don't do anything, and then you gain 2 pounds, and then you lose a pound, and you have to look at it over the course of months, not day to day, not even week to week. Okay. So what most people do is they get frustrated and they just go into fulking mode, which is fuck it bulking, and they just use it as an excuse to eat whatever the hell they want, so that they can justify. They want to get the scale to go up consistently, so they feel like they're getting like immediate positive feedback, because most people are not able to look at the long term, and they simply need short-term justification, short-term gratification. And so they just go into fuck it bulking mode, and they gain a bunch of fat, and then they go, oh, well, see, bulking doesn't work. No, you were impatient as fuck, and that's why bulking didn't work for you. So I'm just gonna delete some idiot on Facebook. Real quick, guys, hang on 1 second. All right. What are your thoughts on PUFAs and testosterone levels? I'm not sure about PUFAs and testosterone. However, there is one study that looked at replacing saturated with fat with PUFAs and actually found better lean body mass accrual with increasing PUFAs. I've successfully lost 8 pounds. I'm going to switch to maintenance. Should I expect some weight gain, or should I maintain my current weight? You might get a little bit of weight gain just from water and glycogen, but it shouldn't be too much. How important is fat intake for a female? Been eating fat at the minimum for months, but developed some skin issues. Well, there you go. If your fat's too low, you're going to have some problems. It is frustrating to feel fluffy in the short term, too. Let me tell you guys something. If you want to get to a goal, you have to be willing to delay gratification. Period. Period. Most of you guys can't delay gratification by more than 5 fucking minutes. If you want to really achieve a goal, you need to be able to delay gratification for weeks, for months, for years, possibly for decades. I had extremely skinny legs when I started bodybuilding when I was 18 years old. Very, very skinny legs. When I did my first show, people called me chicken legs. They were like, why are you even bothering with bodybuilding? Do you even train legs? You must be lazy. You must be a joke, etc., etc. I busted my ass every single leg session, multiple times a week for years, and they barely grew. It wasn't until 10 years after I originally set out to improve my leg development I was getting ready for my first pro show, and I was posing for a judge who was kind of giving me some feedback. And I said to the judge, I know my legs are a weak point. And she said, your legs aren't a weak point anymore. It took me 10 years to do that. 10 years of frustration, of setbacks, of delayed gratification. If I had listened to everyone who had told me that I wasn't going to be able to grow my legs, or if I had just gotten frustrated and quit, which is what most of you guys do, what most people do, because I wasn't seeing it fast enough, I would have never gotten to that goal. I never would have won a pro bodybuilding show. Oh, and by the way, squatted a world record in the squat in 2015. So the guy with skinny legs went on to squat a world record. How many of y'all think about what you could do if you didn't give a fuck about what happened in the next week or the next month or the next year? If you only cared about what happened 5 years from now, and every action you took from this day forward was with the mindset that you didn't care about what happened in the short term, that you were going to do whatever the fuck it took to get to your goal 5 years from now. Imagine what you could do. I hear so many people complain about motivation. Motivation is not why you're not getting to your goals. That is not it. Motivation is like the stock market. Goes up, goes down, doesn't matter. If you have a goal and you want to accomplish that goal, you don't worry about motivation. It doesn't matter how you feel. You put it in your mind. This is what I do. This is my goal. These are the things I need to do in order to reach that goal. And you do those things every single day. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter if you had a bad day. It doesn't matter if you don't like how you look in the mirror one day. It doesn't fucking matter. You do it every single day. And if you do that for years, I promise you, you will be amazed at what you can do if you stop fucking with short-term gratification. Sorry, I'm very passionate about this. You're so intense, I'm here for it. Yeah, I'm pretty intense. This is why I support Carbon. The speech has me hyped to go squat again. Listen, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm definitely not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm very passionate about stuff, and I will never bullshit you on what it actually takes to get to your goals. Has Joe Rogan still not reached out again for any debates? No, but I'm not mad at Joe about that. He has the most popular podcast in the world. So obviously there's a lot of people who are a lot more important than me trying to get on that show. Layne, I've been using Carbon Coach prep for my first show this November 14th, 1 year postpartum, going to finish what I started. Could you talk about competing just for a bucket list accomplishment? I'm not sure I'd recommend competing just for a bucket list accomplishment. Competing is pretty fucking rough. I typically tell people only compete if you've got a burning desire to do it. But it sounds like you're right there. So, finish what you started. Looking forward to seeing the pictures. All right. Coach, I switched to a ketogenic diet because of brain tumors, but I'm concerned of the low protein intake. Would like to keep muscle mass and add sides once I'm done with my cut. Will it be possible on keto? Are you saying that you have a brain tumor or you're worried about developing one? So I just want to get clarification before I answer this question. I got to feed the Alex Jones viewers somehow. Oh, God. Somebody called me the Alex Jones of the fitness industry, and I wanted to puke. I am the opposite of Alex Jones. Alex Jones, Paul Saladino is the Alex Jones of the fitness industry. Why do you never really talk about testosterone levels in keto? Well, what would you like to talk about? Like, what about There's some evidence that keto is better for testosterone that I don't know about. Okay, Arte. First off, man, I'm sorry that you're facing this. I wish you the absolute best. So there is some, I don't want to overemphasize this, some evidence that a ketogenic diet may help with tumor progression. You want to, the biggest thing is, there's a few things here. So first of all, don't listen to these idiots who tell you that modern medicine can't help your cancer and like you need to do all these naturalistic stuff, because there's so many, I fucking hate these vultures who prey on the desperation and fear of cancer patients. It makes me disgusted. Make sure you listen to your physician, your oncologist. He's going to know best, or he or she is going to know best what is best for you. Okay. Now, that being said, there may be some benefit to keto as long as you're able to keep your calories high enough that you're not having a lot of muscle wasting. Okay. So this is a big thing for cancer patients, especially those who go through chemo and radiation. They don't have appetite and they end up becoming what's called cachectic, and they lose quite a bit of lean body mass. And that is actually correlated to low long-term survival in cancer patients. So if you can do keto, keep your calories up, and you feel okay, you're not nauseated or anything like that, that's fine. If you start to feel like you're not able to keep your calories high enough because of nausea or anything like that, or lack of appetite, do not be afraid to add carbohydrates back in. It is more important for you to maintain your lean body mass than it is to try to starve cancer cells, because there's evidence that cancer cells can also run on ketones as well, specific types of cancers and whatnot. So just, sorry, you're not warm me. I'm just tired. But I wish you the absolute best, my friend, and hope that you kick this thing's fucking ass. I know you will. Hey, Layne, let's talk about staying on track coming up to Christmas, please. Sure. So when it comes to adherence over the holidays, I think a coach can help. But I also would say that you need to decide what's most important for you. Because what I see a lot of are people who they go, my goals are the most important thing for me. But then when they're at like Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving, they're just plowing down a bunch of junk. That's fine. Listen, if you decide that it's more valuable for you to spend that time with your family and enjoy that food, that's fine. But don't say, goals are most important, and then your actions don't back that up. Okay. If you want to enjoy that food, spend that time with your family, not be worried about, calories so much, then don't be trying to drop fat during that time. Like, be reverse dieting or gaining or at least a diet break or something. Like, stop trying to force it. I can't tell you how many people I've seen try to cut through the holidays. Some people can do it. I've done it. I've done a contest prep for the holidays. It wasn't easy, but I did it. But that's because it was a priority, period. Point blank, full stop. Okay? You have to decide what is most important for you. And in the short term, maybe fat loss isn't most important for you, and that's okay. That's okay. But be honest about where your priorities are at. Layne, could I get a happy birthday salute? Sure, Renato. Happy birthday, buddy. Let me say I follow you for your respect to medicine too. I work in a hospital, and some misinformation is so dangerous with my cancer patients. Yeah. There was actually a meta-analysis that came out that looked at people who seek out alternative therapies for cancer, which, listen, I'm not saying you can't try to, modify lifestyle and whatnot to help with cancer. I'm not, saying that medicine is the only thing, but people who seek out alternative therapies for cancer typically also forego the standard of care. And the research shows that their survival rates are significantly lower than people who get the standard of care. Do not be fooled by these charlatans who tell you shoving coffee up your ass will help cure your cancer. Get the fuck out of here. Come on now. So, and the problem is they'll say, well, look at this person who came to me and they had stage 4 cancer and they, now they don't have it anymore. Yeah, there are people who go into spontaneous remission. The human body is incredibly resilient. That means fuck all. One data point a solution does not make. Okay? Like I said, I could find studies showing that smoking is protective for mortality. Do you guys believe that? Don't believe these charlatans. There's a guy on Instagram. I want to fucking punch my fist through his fucking skull, who basically says that just juicing and celery juice is enough to cure cancer, and don't get chemo and don't get radiation. That motherfucker should be tried and convicted of murder, because this advice, people listen to it because they are desperate, because they're scared. People listen to it, and then it ends up getting people killed. You guys wonder why I get so angry about this stuff. It's one thing to sell a supplement and claim it increases lean body mass when it doesn't. It is a whole different sleaze bag mentality when you sell bullshit to desperate, scared people and make a profit off that. There is a special place in hell for you. Okay, sorry, I realized I went off on a little rant. Could a beginner expect to make good progress primarily using machine weights, goal being gaining muscle, and assuming consistent training? Local gym doesn't have a lot of free weights. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just about progressive overload, man. Progressive overload will help. Is the primary thing. You can do that with machines. Medical medium, he has more than 1 million followers. Yes, he's a piece of trash. I just don't understand the mentality of following someone like that who claims that they get their information from spirits. You what, mate? You know more than all these doctors because spirits talk to you? Well, guess what? I have a fucking talking tree who lives out in my backyard. I go talk to him every night. Prove that he doesn't. This is the same old fucking dumb shit. And there's millions of people who buy this. Millions. Like, how dumb has our civilization got? It just blows my mind. I don't have words for it. Do I first need to master bodyweight exercises before moving on to lifting weights for the first time? Of course not. Why would you need to do that? Start lifting weights. It's fine. It's great for you. All right, guys. That's it for this week. Make sure you check out Carbon Diet Coach at joincarbon.com. Also, my supplement line is going to be launching next Friday, outwardnutrition.com. Make sure you guys check it out. And if you haven't already, check out the Shred with Layne program on biolayne.com. I think you guys will love it. Thank you so much. Sorry for my rants. Much love. Hope you all have a great weekend.